I never thought I'd have my fears of supernatural things come true, but it happened nonetheless. I have a friend. They will be referred to as D, and I will be referred to as C. My friend D lives in a place where there are no neighbors, and he said there are skinwalkers haunting the woods surrounding his house. Even his mom and his whole family believes it. The first day we were there, we were training outside for the first day I was there. That night, we were outside at around 10 p.m., taking the trash out. We were talking and stuff when I heard something snap, followed by something falling. I heard leaves as well when it fell. When I looked up at the hill, I heard it, at around 10 feet away from me, was a creature, a pale white and skinny creature, getting up from the leaves and dislocating its own shoulder blades. I was petrified. It stared at me for 5 solid seconds before I used all the cardio training I've been doing and sprinted back to the house. D just stared at it. The following day, we found a booby trap that was set to trip an animal was broken. The trap was 2 feet away from where I saw it. The second night, it was late, and we were both in D's room. We heard a screech. A non-animal, non-human screech that sent shivers down my spine. We had seen this and said, "Do not be afraid, it feeds on fear." I had tried to calm down. On the third and final day, in the afternoon, we were out and going to where it had been. There was a weird area that was connected to the skinwalker. Once we had arrived, it was blocked off by trees. We were weirded out and looked at each other. Everything went silent. The trees, winds, the cats outside, even the leaves falling. And then I saw it in the distance. We had both been creeped out, and I just stared back. Me and him still talk about what we saw when I was there. Me and him love that. I lived in an apartment that was built in the 70s to 80s. It was a premium property back then, but over the years, it saw its best days fade. It had a mixed population. The complex was built on very uneven ground and historically sat on Native American lands. The area was also known for many skirmishes and deaths. I lived in 2 locations within that complex. At first, I lived in the midsection of the building on the 2nd floor, near the management office. I never had any major issues there, except for the mouse problem. The straw that broke my back was when I finally saw a roach. That prompted me to move out. The ladies in the office offered me an apartment at the other end of the building, with some new furnishings. It was a corner unit on the 3rd floor, far from the roaches. I was very happy with the offer because I had initially wanted to live on the top floor in a corner unit. Fewer neighbors and no footsteps walking above you. Or so I thought. I was satisfied with the move once I got settled. It was so quiet, no roaches and far fewer mice. Eventually, I broke my lease because of the mice, but I digress. My partner at the time, now my wife, and I began experiencing something odd. We would hear footsteps above us every day, even though we were on the top floor. The footsteps seemed to follow us from the bedroom to the living room. I started noticing a pattern. When we went to bed and settled in for the night, we'd hear footsteps enter the room, pace in a circle in the corner, and finally settle there. The same thing happened when we went into the living room. The footsteps would eventually follow us, pace in a circle in the corner of the room, and then stop and settle. This complex had a slanted roof, so I thought it might be possible for someone to be in the attic space. But why would they choose to be above our apartment? Why would they follow us from room to room? If I were hiding in an attic, I'd be very quiet to avoid exposing my hiding spot. So my theory of a stowaway didn't hold up. I also considered the possibility of neighbors downstairs, but the sound was distinctly coming from above us, and even more so, it felt like it was in our apartment. I came to the conclusion that my apartment was being haunted by a spirit. I'd pointed this out to my partner, but she preferred to ignore spirits because of her spiritual background. She believes in spirits, but doesn't engage with them, unless she feels threatened. I, on the other hand, don't mind spirits, and consider myself open to the paranormal, and somewhat of a demonologist. I almost became a priest, and wanted to enter the field of exorcism, but I also wanted a family, and respected the cloth. I've been told I have the gift of discernment. I see things, or the truth in people. I also see things from the past, have visions of the future, and have had some remote viewing experiences, but I digress. Anyways, regarding the entity in my apartment, all I could see in my mind's eye was a white man in his mid to late 20s, bearded and somewhat disheveled. He wore a flannel shirt and blue jeans. This man would follow us from room to room, walking upside down on the ceiling, pacing in a circle, and finally settling. He would sit cross-legged, facing my partner and me during our daily routines, silently watching us. I had one other significant experience in that apartment. My partner lived very close to me, so close I could see her home from my apartment. One evening, she left for the night and I went to bed. As I started to fall asleep, I felt my bed shaking. I calmly assessed my surroundings. I listened for the train several miles away, which we could faintly feel if it was heavy, but there was no train. I thought I might have pinched a nerve, so I adjusted my body. Now lying on my back, the bed continued to shake, harder than before. At this point, I became concerned. I had never experienced anything like this before. I decided it might be spiritual in nature and said Our Father prayer. The bed continued to shake for about 30 seconds after the prayer. I called my partner to see if she wanted to come back and stay the night. She agreed, but told me about her strange experience at her place. She lived with their grandmother. When she got home that evening, she went to open her locked bedroom door. The door wouldn't budge. She pushed and pushed with all her strength, but the handle wouldn't turn, and the door stayed shut. This freaked her out a bit, so she told her grandmother. Her grandmother, who was wise and spiritually powerful, came to the door. She cranked the handle as hard as she could, pushed, and the door eventually gave away. This all happened around the same time my bed was shaking. It was strange and coincidental. My partner eventually came to my rescue, and I felt much better with her there that night. I don't remember exactly when this happened, but my best guess is October, November 2023. Anyways, it was about 12 in the morning, and I was on Xbox with my friends, and we were just chatting it up. I had my window open because my heater was on, and I was sweating, and I only have one window, and I play right next to it. So I'm sitting right there, and I hear a woman scream. I was so caught off guard. I was just confused. I live in a nice neighborhood, so I wasn't necessarily scared. Fast forward a few minutes, I hear it again. So obviously, I pay more attention, and I think I hear it coming from the house across the street. That was the last time I heard it that night, so I moved on, went to bed, and mostly forgot about it. Then, about a month later, I'm in my living room. I can see a one-story directly in front of me, one to the left as well. Then I see a cop car outside, the one story on the left where I heard the scream. I've lived in this house my whole life and never had seen a cop car at anyone's house before. The people who lived in the house were a young couple, and they had just recently had a kid. The husband did manual labor of some sort, and the mom was a stay-at-home. The wife's parents actually lived in the house across from them, the one next to my window. I know these people very well. Great people. Anyways, I see the cop walk up and knock on the door. I love drama, so I kept watching. I see them talk to her, and they have a sheet with them. They talk and do cop stuff. They leave, and a couple days later, I see a moving truck, and most of the stuff in their garage is being moved. I thought this was odd, so I used the Freedom of Information Act and found the police report. Turns out it was a restraining order the wife put on the husband. It stated he was struggling with substance abuse and was physically abusing her. I was shocked because I had never seen anything odd from them. But then remembering the screaming coming from their house, and I had an epiphany. I went, oh shit, was that her being abused and yelling? And suddenly, it fully clicked. It's sad to see that because they're so young and have a kid. The kid was so cute, but fortunately, she had her parents to help, and I tried to help in my own way by buying her kid toys. Not a scary paranormal or a spirit type of story, but very disturbing when I put it all together. She's doing better now, thank God. And domestic violence is just so horrible.